Hello, hello, Regina Pinckney. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm well, Tamara. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate having you back for a second time. I wanted to really focus and highlight specifically the Virginia Housing's opportunity for a veterans closing cost grant. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Virginia Housing, and then we can break into this veterans closing cost grant?
Sounds great. My name is Regina Pinckney. I'm the Business Development Officer for Virginia Housing. We just changed our name from VHDA, the Virginia Housing Development Authority, to Virginia Housing just this year. So if I say VHDA, please forgive me. It's
Yep, no
one and the
problem.
same.
It's still
Same,
fresh.
same, same mission, same great loan programs, just a new name.
Awesome.
So, so I've been with Virginia Housing for 3 years now. I was a former loan officer in Alexandria, Virginia for 15 years between Alexandria and Fairfax County.
Mhm.
Prior to coming over to Virginia Housing, I have loved VHDA/Virginia Housing from the first time I ever heard about one of these loans.
Yes,
So
and that's how
I'm
you and I got to know each other.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And so I'm ecstatic to be here now on Virginia Housing's team.
Awesome. Well, I really wanted to dedicate a little bit of time because a lot of my clients are veterans and active duty military, and right now it is a challenge for them because we are facing a hot seller's market. It's very competitive, and when I say competitive, I mean if it's a great property, more than likely you're going to be competing with other buyers. So we're not really seeing a whole lot of opportunity for a buyer to ask to negotiate closing costs from the seller. So this is a great opportunity with the Veterans Closing Cost Grant. So can you share with us exactly what this opportunity is?
Okay, so the grant that you're speaking of is our closing cost assistance. We call it a CCA for short.
Okay.
And our CCA grant is for first-time home buyers who use either a VA loan, one that is exclusive for veterans, or a rural housing loan, or sometimes they call them a USDA loan.
Mhm.
And those are available in rural areas. Both of these loans are automatically 100% financing. And so generally buyers don't need help with the down payment on that type of loan. So we came up with a grant, the CCA, that gives 2% of the sales price as a free grant to help cover closing costs for eligible first-time home buyers.
Okay, so question for you with regards to sales price. Okay, and I'm glad you specifically mentioned that it's up to 2%. So when we're talking sales price numbers, I looked and checked the current stats for Alexandria City, because we have those buyers who are looking to be close to the Pentagon, maybe Bowling or Andrews Air Force Base. Now, according to Bright MLS statistics, for Alexandria City, in the month of August 2020, the median sales price of a home was $625,000, and that was up by 23.64% in August 2019 from $505,500. And of the 275 homes that sold in Alexandria City in the month of August, 45 of those buyers use VA financing. So even though it's a higher price point,
Wow.
they are still taking advantage of the VA loan. Now, if I come down into the burbs a little bit for Fairfax, Virginia, in Fairfax County, for the month of August 2020, the median sales price was $580,000, and that was up 9.64% from $529,000, which was the median in August 2019. And in Fairfax County, of the 1,669 homes that were sold, 198 of those buyers took advantage of VA financing. So when we see our markets with those price points, what is the maximum sales price that the veteran can go up to when they're looking to use this closing cost assistance grant?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen and I
Absolutely.
can show you our charts.
Okay. Was it enabled? There you go.
It's coming up.
All right.
So can you see the chart now?
Yes, I can see the chart.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we in Northern Virginia, that's Fredericksburg on up,
Mm-hmm.
are in this group here, the Washington, Arlington, Alexandria MSA.
Okay.
And so you'll see that we have 2 income limits, 2 or fewer people, 3 or more, and then each category is broken down into 2. Standard, that means no free money, no grant, or with our down payment assistance grant or our CCA. So
Okay.
first of all, our income limits for the grant in Northern Virginia, 2 or fewer people, household income 110,500.
Okay.
3 or more people, regardless of how many borrowers are on the loan, 129,000.
Okay. That's
Okay,
pretty good. That's
for the grant.
comparable to this area.
Yeah, you can. I mean, this is a high cost area, so folks up here make a little bit more money, but it doesn't allow them. The cost to live here doesn't allow you to save a lot of money,
Right.
and we
That is true.
recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you'll see our sales price, loan limit, and total acquisition cost is right here at 525. So
Okay.
I noticed that you use median sales prices. So those are those that fall in the middle. So there's a good amount of business that falls within our sales price limits of 525 in Northern Virginia
Yes,
still.
indeed. Yes.
There'll be
And
multiple offers,
yes.
but, but there's a lot you can do there. And if you go to our website, virginiahousing.com, you can find our income limits there. And also, if you scroll to the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
you can see that each MSA is broken down. So you're wondering, oh, well, let's say I want to buy a home in Culpeper. What are the income limits in Culpeper? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't see them here, you're gonna, and you don't see it here, which we do. We see their limits in Culpeper. They're a bit lower than Northern Virginia, even despite
Okay.
it being very close.
Mm-hmm.
But if for some reason you don't find your county listed here or below, then
Mm-hmm.
you use all other areas.
Okay. Got you.
Okay.
Okay, and one of the things that's really common for our active duty military and veterans is that they may own another home in another state. So I know we specifically said that, okay, you have to be a first-time home buyer, but are there any exceptions to that?
There are exceptions.
Yes.
One, our definition of a first-time homebuyer is someone who has not occupied as their primary residence a home that they owned in the last 3 years.
Okay.
So you may own a home in Virginia Beach or in Florida or in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can document that you haven't lived in it in the last 3 years, we treat you like you're a first-time home buyer despite the fact that your name is still on that old property.
Okay, so it has to be 3 years.
Has to be 3 years.
Okay.
Unless, here's another exception, you move to a targeted area, or they call them areas of economic opportunity. In
Okay.
those areas, and there are not really many in Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are out further west in the state.
Mm-hmm.
But if you move and it's your primary residence to one of those, you can have an exception.
Okay, great. And I also had an opportunity to work with the military family recently. Their challenge was they owned a co-op in DC. So how does Virginia Housing treat the ownership of a co-op in that definition?
um, the co-ops are being treated as home ownership.
Okay, just wanted to get that confirmation. Okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
right now, I think as a result of COVID, we are seeing an influx of buyers coming in from the city, from DC. They're coming out
Mm-hmm.
to the suburbs. And,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them, they're either, if they're not renting, their first place may have been a
A
co-op. So
co-op,
we're
yes.
seeing a rise in that type of home ownership now.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is, let's say we do have an opportunity where we are negotiating an offer, the buyer has been approved for this closing cost grant, and the seller has also agree to pay some or all of the closing costs in the contract, would the buyer still be able to take advantage and use the closing cost grant if the seller has agreed to pay some of their costs? And how would that work?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I'll tell you no. I'll tell you why no first.
Okay.
No is on a USDA loan.
Okay.
The borrower could use the grant and some help from the seller, but if there's a surplus, then it would have to go back to the seller.
Okay.
But for your veteran clients,
Mm-hmm.
it's a totally different story.
Ooh.
Because, yes, if there's a surplus of money in the deal from the seller,
Mm-hmm.
which it's easier to have if you already have a 2% grant from us,
Mm-hmm.
then VA loan guidelines allow the veteran to use the surplus money from the seller to pay off their consumer debt. So can you imagine 100% financing, a
Mm-hmm.
grant for closing costs, super agent got you seller help,
Yes.
and you're going to use some extra money to pay down your car note, your student loans, pay off a credit card.
Yes. That's
Uh,
awesome.
it is awesome, and our veterans deserve it.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree.
Our
And
veterans deserve it.
yes, indeed. And I will share with you a scenario that I just experienced this past weekend as a listing agent. So I have a property that just went under contract, and we did have multiple offers. One of the offers was a VA purchase,
Mhm.
and it wasn't the best offer. So the VA financing had nothing to do with it. However, the buyer was asking for closing costs. And I spoke to the buyer agent and I said, is your lender, an approved Virginia housing lender? And she said yes, formerly VHDA. She said yes. And I said, well, have you looked at the closing cost assistance grant? And her response was, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
gave her the website. I said, definitely look this up. So I bring that up not to, highlight or not to talk bad about her,
Mhm.
but I bring that up to say, as a buyer, when you're in this market, it's a heavy seller's market. It's very competitive. One of the things that you should be doing is making sure that you're working with an agent who is aware of these programs and who can help you find this money to help you not only not have to use your own money, but to help you make more attractive and more competitive offers.
Exactly. Exactly. You're spot on there. As I said, I was a lender before, and my agents that understood what I was doing with the financing piece,
Mm-hmm.
we made things happen that it looked like could never even happen. But
Yes.
it's because the contract met with the loan, and they were made for each other and for our client. And I think you're absolutely right that do your own due diligence,
Mm-hmm.
but build a team, a knowledgeable team.
Right.
You're a consumer trying to buy a home, build a knowledgeable
Yes.
team to help
And
you with that.
another question that I have for you is, I know that a lot of agents aren't aware. So what can I do? How can we get the word out on this program? Because like you said, our veterans deserve it.
Oh,
And
they
I
do.
wholeheartedly agree with that. So what can we do to help get the word out to our veterans?
I think one of the biggest things that we have to depend on is the folks watching this video.
Hmm.
You may not be a veteran, but I bet you know one. I bet
Right,
you like one. I bet you love one somewhere.
right,
And they need to know what's available to them, because even a lot of veterans don't know what benefits they get
right. Because
as
a
a
lot of
part of their
veterans aren't even
service.
aware of the VA loan.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they don't know that they have 100% financing available. They don't know that they can get a grant. And I think just even if it doesn't apply to you, please share this information because it's going to be helpful to someone.
Absolutely. Well, I will do everything that I can to share this
Oh,
information and get the word out.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, Regina, if someone would like to get more information about this grant, how would they go about it? What is the best way for them to find out more information?
Well, you can go to virginiahousing.com.
Okay.
That's Virginia spelled out housing.com.
Okay.
And then click Homebuyers at the top. And you're going to find everything you need to know about our homebuyer education. You'll have access to training. There's a link to find a lender that's experienced with Virginia housing loans as well. So it's all there on our homebuyer page.
Okay, great. And you did mention home buyer education. So with the veterans closing cost assistance, does the veteran have to go through the education class, the 8-hour education class, in order to take advantage of the grant?
Yes, all of our borrowers, each borrower on the loan must have their own Virginia Housing Homebuyer Education Certificate. But if, let's say your clients have already taken a homebuyer education certificate
Mhm.
class from Fannie Mae or a HUD approved housing counselor, we'll
Mhm.
accept those too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Regina. This has been super helpful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.